All right, what's up? We are live. Welcome, my brothers. This is a cold hard truth bomb around the topic of cheating women, wives, girlfriends, forcing men to pay child support for kids that aren't theirs. I had an article sent to me earlier this week. I'll throw up on the screen in just a minute. If you're coming into the stream live right now, hit the like button. Helps me out a ton. It just lets the algorithms know that content like this needs to be shared to more of the subscribers. So do that for me right now. Thanks, guys. Now, this article is about a Finnish man, and I've got a few other follow-ups to this with some other stats. So the way that we're going to flow is going to try to get this done in about 30 minutes or less. I'm going to pop through these different articles. There's two of them specifically that have some very useful facts. And then I'm going to give you some actionable advice at the end so that guys like you out there that are concerned about this, that want to minimize the risk of paternity fraud, at least get some actionable advice. I know there's a lot of guys out there that will dive into content like this and they'll just use it as, see, all women are bad, just stay away from them, right? Go live in a cabin in the woods and just ignore. But the reality is the vast majority of your guys feel the biological imperative, and fathering children, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It just sucks that the environment we live in today is so high risk. So let's throw up this first bit over here. This is so I can't recall who sent me this email because it was almost a week ago, but thank you. Keep sending me stuff like this via DM or by email if you think it's something that I should cover. I may or may not cover it, but this is one that I think ties in nicely with some of these other points and some research bits that I collected for my book. So the title is Finnish Man Ordered by Court to Pay Alimony for a Child Resulting from His Wife Cheating with Another Man. This is as of October 2020. So Helsinki Court of Appeal has upheld the verdict given by a district court that a man has to pay alimony for a child which was not biologically his. Okay, this was a result of the wife cheating on him with another dude. The man's wife had given birth to the child in 2014, but it was only 2 years later that he found out that he was not the biological father of the child. This resulted in the couple's divorce, and the man applied for abolishment of paternity, which was not granted. So to sum it up, dude finds out 2 years after the child is born that it's not his, gets a divorce, and applies to have his child support obligations removed because the kid's not his. Now, the court did not grant that. So the court had argued that had he applied for the annulment of paternity a couple of months too late. So, sorry, he actually applied for it too late. According to the Finnish law, men have up to 2 years to apply for voiding paternity of a child born in wedlock, which turns out to be biologically unrelated. Can you believe that there's actually a limitation period on this in Helsinki? The deadline can only be extended for significant reasons. He had argued that the fact that he had only found out later was shocked by the divorce and emotional distress of the revolution. Court had not seen these reasons as significant. So even though like he places a reasonable argument as to why they should set aside this 2-year rule, they still say, tough beans, buddy. They're basically saying somebody's got to pay for the kid. You've already been acting like the father, so we're just going to maintain you as a father, even though you're not the father. Anyway, they see paternity fraud as not significant enough, if you can believe that or not. I mean, I've said before, guys, family law hates men, right? I mean, this is just another example of it. So later, the mother of the child had sued the man for alimony. So not only child support, but for alimony. And the court, I mean, the marriage ended because he found out that she was a garden tool and cheated on him and the kid was not his. So she's still entitled out. It doesn't matter how women behave under family law. It can be as badly as this one did. You're still on the hook for alimony and child support. So the court had ruled that he was obligated to pay alimony as well for the legal costs of his. So to add insult to injury, he also paid for the wife's legal costs. The cheating wife got her legal costs paid, even though she took him to court, and she behaved like a garden tool 2 years ago and lied to him about being the father. So the case has incited social media uproar, with many Finns finding the ruling unjust and some commenting the need of We Too movement in defense of men's rights. Men, you do not get any defense of your rights. You're not allowed to. As soon as you start talking about them, you're deemed a little crybaby. That's just the way society looks at us. But again, I'm showing you these so you can walk into the slaughterhouse with your eyes wide open if you so choose to do this. And again, I will provide you with some actionable tips at the end of this once we go through all this. This is an interesting article that I came across when I was researching paternity fraud for a section of my book. This is from 2002, and it's a Canadian publication. I think it's Globe and Mail is where it first appeared. Yeah. It's funny, when I was a kid, I used to deliver this newspaper. So this is titled Mommy's Little Secret. And this is data that came out of hospital. So let me just go big screen for a second. Paternity fraud, by definition, relies on the mother being deceptive. I've said before, the reason why men get jealous is different from the reason why women get jealous. Men get jealous because they want assurance of paternity, and they want to make sure that all other dudes stay away from his woman, so that if he's going to knock her up, or if he thinks that she's knocked up carrying his child, it is in fact his child. That's why men get jealous. Women get jealous because they think that they're going to lose access to resources and provisioning. It's something totally different, because they're assured 100% paternity because the child's in them. So hospital, I think it was a hospital of sick children, which has been gathering some of this data kind of off the books. Again, paternity fraud relies on the mother being deceptive. Because of that, because of the embarrassment associated with being deceptive to, you know, the guy that thinks he's acting as a father, who usually ends up being the beta buck sort of provider, and she took on the alpha seed of some other guy. Because of the deceptive nature of paternity fraud, it's very, very difficult to get accurate numbers until I started going through some of these older articles. And again, keep in mind, this is 2002. So I don't think things have gotten any better as time's gone on. In fact, I think things like paternity fraud, while maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago were frowned upon, and there was a negative connotation associated to women behaving like that, today there's really not a lot of consequences, you know. And I'll show you exactly why here in this bit. So let's throw this back up on the screen. So a couple comes to a hospital together, a husband and wife, and a little daughter they feared had been cursed by inheritance. Since birth, she had struggled to breathe, and all the signs pointed to cystic fibrosis. So this is all data that the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto had started to collect off the books. If the girl truly had incurable disease that clogs the lungs, she had to have received 2 copies of a CF gene, one from each parent. Tests at the hospital for sick children in Toronto confirmed that family's worst fears, and then some. The girl was indeed afflicted. Her mom carried one of the culprit genes, but the dad, the doctors discovered, was quite a different story. His DNA showed no sign of a CF gene, which means he's not a carrier and not her dad. So again, women have to be deceptive. They have to lie to get away with this stuff. But these lies get exposed when they're bringing kids to hospitals to deal with sicknesses, ailments, disorders, genetic issues, because they have to test both parents. In this particular case, both parents had to have a copy of the CF gene. Only one parent did, which deemed the guy that thought he was a father as not the father. Hospital staff have felt bound to keep the secret from him. So even though the hospital staff discover the problem, you know, it's, again, the sisterhood uber ally, they'll keep it a secret from the father. But when they told the mother, it came as no surprise. And they say it rarely does. So this data here started to add up, and they were starting to predict that roughly 10% of us are not fathered by the man that we believe dad. Okay, so this is coming just from the hospital staff seeing patterns as they're dealing with these genetic disorders, and they're seeing 1 in 10 fathers not being the biological father. Now, as we scroll a little bit further down here, there was another set of data points. So that's 10%. So they're saying on the low end, it's going to be a minimum of 10% of the population where fathers think they're the father, but they're in reality not the father. There was another piece of data here that was collected in a British survey. Here it is. In the early 1970s, a school teacher in southern England assigned a class science project in which the students were to find out the blood types of their parents. The parents were then use this information to deduce their own blood types. So because a gene from each parent determines your blood type, in most instances, only a certain number of combinations are possible. So the teacher in goodwill is like, okay, kids, let's have a little science experiment and we're going to determine your blood type, not thinking that a lot of these guys that thought were the kid's father had been cucked by the mother and deceived and been raising another man's kid. So what they got with the data was, when the teacher collected it all, was instead 30% of the students discovered their dads were not their biological fathers. I'm guessing the headmaster of that school prohibited any further science or home experiments like this after getting these results. Am I right, guys? It's crazy, right? So we don't have any accurate numbers as far as what paternity fraud issues look like. But again, it looks like it's somewhere between 10 and 30%, according to this stuff over here. By the way, if you want to grab mugs, merch is below. You know, it's always available. So grab some stuff. It helps support the channel. We've got the women don't care about the struggle. They hang out at the finish line and pick the. That's the PG version. So, you know, you can have that around the house. You know what the F version is. But anyway, so let's keep going. So there's some data talking about the rates at which it happens. There was a newspaper in 2004. Again, this is archived with some of the stuff that I was digging through on paternity issues. And I wanted to get some clarity around the honesty and the deception that women can and do use in relationships. Because again, paternity fraud, cucking the guy that thinks that he's a father into believing he's a father when he's not, because she's taken on alpha seed and then using him for beta need. It's not that uncommon. So here in this survey, and again, these are women that are admitting to lying. So because this requires deception, because this requires shining an unfavorable light on them, I would suspect, and I think you would agree with me, that these numbers are a little underreported. They're nowhere close to being reported as factual in my view, but they're going to be underreported because women don't want to look bad. So let's go into this, because there's only a couple paragraphs in this one. It says 19, let's put it back up on screen, sorry. 19 out of 20 women admit to lying to their partners or husbands, a survey Attitudes on Truth Relationships has found. 83% owned up to telling big life-changing lies, with 13% saying they did so frequently. Now, here's what they've highlighted here. Half said that if they became pregnant by another man but wanted to stay with their partner, they would lie about the baby's real father. That's reported. That's them declaring, I am going to be a dishonest liar, a POS, garden tool, and I am going to tell people giving me this survey that this is the kind of person that I am. I assure you this number is underreported. You could probably add another 25% to that. You know, 7 out of 10 would probably lie to the father in reality. Declaring it via this survey, they're saying half. 42% said they would lie about contraception in order to get pregnant, no matter the wishes of their partner. So you're a dude that says, I'm not interested in having kids right now. You run into a pretty girl who's got a nice chassis, who might be at the epiphany phase of her life, and says that she's on birth control pills or has an IUD. You need to know that 42% will lie. This is admitting to being liars. Again, I think this is underreported. I would believe the real number to be higher, but 42% admit that they would lie about contraception in order to get pregnant. Be aware of that. An alarming 31%, they would not tell a future partner if they had a sexual disease. Okay, so they're in an LTR, and 31% of women admit that they wouldn't tell their long-term partner that they had an STD. This rises to 65% amongst single women. You guys have seen me take some email requests from people over the years, and there's one that's popped up a few times where a guy gets an STD from his girlfriend and is shocked to learn that he has it. Well, 65% of women, single women, are going to lie to you. So if you think for a second raw dogging is a good idea and you're spinning plates and you're getting out there doing your thing, and she's like, yeah, everything's fine. You know, I tested, everything's clean, and I have an IUD in there, so just go to town. You should think very carefully about believing what you've been told, because the data that we're looking at here is telling us it's deceptive. I could keep going on here, but this entire article breaks down a bunch of other little white lies that they get into, but the top part really deals with the paternity issues and things around paternity. So Is this starting to make sense to you guys? Are you starting to learn something here? Smash the like button and put in the comments yes if you are. All right, I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're going to wrap up with the actionable steps that I promised I'd give you. I have another article here. So this law firm, this guy, seems to collect a lot of data off these public sites, and he's got a case here of Dave versus Weir. This guy was paying child support for 16 years, learns that he's not a father, and tries to get a refund. And what does the court say? Even though he was not the real father, the court confirmed that in law, the man had historical obligation to pay child support and declined the order to have money refunded. So what they're basically saying is you had the opportunity before to, get a paternity test, to question this, but you waited until the kid was whatever it was. What was it? 16 years, 16 years. But I mean, the thing being is kids don't look that much like their parents when they're small. Usually it's only when they get older and they start to go through puberty and they start to develop their adult characteristics and traits that you may notice it. So I could see how this guy would be frustrated with the deception, but at the same time, he spent 17 years paying to raise a kid that was not biological his, does not pass on his last name, does not pass on his DNA. It's not his. He got scammed. And by the way, when I'm going through all these components, there's one common thing that I've noticed. There's absolutely no consequences to the mother for being deceptive and lying to the guy that thinks that he's the father. None whatsoever. It's completely consequence free. She can go and have a train run on her by an NBA basketball team when he's away on a business trip and she's at the courts with her girlfriend and the boss who gives them box seats, gets knocked up, has the kid. He can be raising that kid for 7, 8, 10, 17 years. All of a sudden, for some reason, he learns that it's not his child. Maybe he gets a 23andMe spit test for himself and his kid, and the biological differences are, of course, way too different. There's no association, or he does a paternity test, like a DNA test. But either way, he finds out, and there's nothing he can do about it. He can't get that time back. He certainly can't get his money back. She has no consequences whatsoever for deceiving the father. Even though it seems like in almost all cases, these women seem to know that they're deceiving the father. I mean, they know, they know on a balance of probabilities who the father is. It's just that with that notion that we've learned about alpha seed and beta need is women are quite happy to, and they have done this throughout history. If you look at Evo Psych, take on the seed of an alpha male, the highest value genetic specimen that they can get knocked up by. And then if there's a beta male orbiter around that has financial resources and the capacity to take care of her and the kid, no problem. Guess what? I'm with child. It's yours. We have to buy a house and do the nursery and blah, 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 and all that sort of thing. So you can run into that problem very, very easily. And again, there's no consequences for women, which is interesting because I found another piece here where a father was sentenced to 18 months in prison for faking results of a paternity test. He wanted to weasel his way out of paying child support, so he falsified evidence of a DNA test, and he goes to jail for 18 years. Or sorry, not 18 years, 18 months. But no consequences to women. They can screw a guy over to thinking that it's his kid raising them. He pays for birthdays, Christmases, travel, holidays, school, all that kind of crap, and he finds out at some point later on down the road, oh, by the way, this isn't your kid, through whatever means necessary. No consequences to her. Guy tries to do something that's deceptive. He gets 18 months in jail. You can see that there's a separate standard of justice when it comes to men and women. Let's go into some actionable tips to try to avoid this for you as a guy, because a lot of guys are gonna be like, okay, well, what do I do to avoid this now? I want to sire children. Okay, got it. Fine. That's why we're here. We are here as men to scatter seed. It is what it is. Somebody in the comments says that women are evil. No, women are just women. That's where a lot of guys get wrong. They get pissed off and they get mad and they get rage. Women are women. Okay. They have a predisposition to behave like this. They always have. It's part of their survival adaptation. So the thing being is how do you navigate around that as a guy so that you don't end up getting mad and thinking that all women are evil. So, I mean, first of all, if you have any suspicions that the kid is not yours, obvious suspicions, you're both Caucasian, the kid comes out half caste, you need to kind of figure that one out. That should be obvious to you. Get a paternity test right away. If there's any kind of overlap in the relationship, maybe you're away serving, you're on assignment, you weren't around that 2 weeks of the month where she would have been knocked up. Because usually what ends up happening when you take them to the doctor and they start doing the scans and the blood work and the ultrasounds, they can usually give you the date of conception because they have the idea of the date of delivery, or they usually come around the week or something like that. It should be available to you. So if there's any questions, you should start investigating it early on, not waiting 16 years or several years down the road. You may never learn the truth, right? You may suspect it, but at the end of the day, if your spidey senses start tingling and you start getting some notion or some idea that something's up, start putting together what you need to get the testing done. So I got 4 tips for you now on avoiding or minimizing the risks of paternity fraud, meaning you want to have kids. What can you do to minimize that risk so that you don't get cucked? Well, the first thing is make sure that you're with a chick that has genuine burning desire for you. Okay. There's a lot of ways to establish this. I have a video on my channel that talks about why, just search on YouTube, Entrepreneurs in Cars, why genuine burning desire matters. It's incredibly important. I talked about it the other day on a video on how you would know that you're not her first choice. Genuine burning desire, like if you meet a chick, she's going to show up on time. She's always going to wear makeup. She's going to be enthusiastic with you when she's intimate. She'll do everything with you. She'll bring you gifts. You can assign tasks to her. Hey, pick this up on the way over. There's very little quarreling, very little fighting. She's essentially, without being crazy, obsessed with you. Other guys are pretty much invisible to a chick when she has genuine burning desire for you. Like I said the other day in the video, unless she's walking through the mall with her girlfriends and there's a firefighter group selling calendars shirtless and their overalls and stuff, they almost never look at other dudes. They're practically invisible to them when they're obsessed with you, when they have genuine burning desire for you. So there's an entire chapter that talks about that in my book. Get on the email list. It's pinned in the top comment below, entrepreneursincars.com/red-flags. That is almost out. Let me just put that up on the screen so you have that while I'm reading through this. The first choice component, again, the other day I did a video on how you know that you're not her first choice. Chris Rock made a famous joke about this in his stand-up. I believe it was called Never Scared. And he said, fellas, the #1 reason why your woman is pissed off at you is because you're not her first choice. And the entire auditorium erupts in laughter. Why? Because the shit's true. Okay. A lot of women settle for guys that are not their first choice. The chances of you being cucked, the chances of you not being the father of the children or a child in the household go up dramatically if she settles for a guy that's not her first choice. You end up basically in her eyes being viewed as a beta provider, the beta male provider. That's the useful idiot that makes the paycheck, pays all the bills, the mortgage is taken care of, the retirement fund is looked after, and so are the children, and they may or may not be yours. But if you're first choice, you will know it. Okay, genuine burning desire. If you're not, you're second, third, or fourth choice. Maybe she was alpha widowed. Who knows? Let's do number 3. She's a compliment to your life. It should be obvious that a chick digs your vibe if she's a compliment to your life, meaning she does a lot of shit for you, right? She'll cook, she'll clean, she'll help you out with chores. You can assign tasks to her. She's useful in your life. She contributes to it, right? She makes the effort to do those things. Women that don't have genuine burning desire for you, let me take that down. I see some super chats, which I'll grab in a second. Just bear with me. If she doesn't have that genuine burning desire for you, she's not going to try to compliment your life. She's going to be an irritant. Okay. She's going to try to be the focus of your life if she doesn't have genuine burning desire. Right. And number 4, again, I'm going to mention it once more. If you have any doubts whatsoever, get a paternity test. In fact, if you want to be 100% certain, get a paternity test to begin with. Again, the data, the stats look like on the low end, it's going to be 1 in 10. On the high end, it could be as much as 30, like a third. Okay. So the rates of cuckoldry exist. Again, they rely on female deception. A lot of the data, I think, with the stats and the surveys are underreported because women don't want to come off in a bad light. So if they have been deceptive in the past or they would be deceptive in the future, most of them are not going to admit to it. So again, you've seen all the data there. I hope this sheds some light on it for you. Let me get the super chat over here before we wrap up real quick. Anon says, follow your suspicions and instinct. If your gut says she's a streetwalker, she probably is. We have instincts for a reason. Thanks for the work. Thanks, brother. Yeah, your spidey senses tingle, guys. Listen to it. I've said before, if that little voice that talks to you, it's often a whisper when it starts to detect something that might be wrong. The problem is most guys will ignore it and they won't acknowledge it until it becomes a shout. Only when it becomes a shout, it's way too much of a problem for you. I see a comment here. Dude says, my ex-wife cheated throughout our whole marriage. However, my son was born with some unique traits he could only have gotten from me, so I never worried. Fair enough. That's an entirely different way to deal with it. But again, if you want certainty, get a paternity test. Most countries will let you get some. There might be countries that might prohibit them. I heard somewhere that I think at the time I was reading the article, it's either Spain or France that doesn't like fathers running paternity tests. I mean, can you guess why? There's other ways to get around it. You can do like a 23andMe spit test where you do your own and then you do your kids. So just be careful, guys. Be careful. I mean, the only real benefit to becoming a father is passing on your genetic legacy. Make sure that you are able to do that and you're not getting defrauded here and being sold a raw deal. Anyway, smash the like button, leave a comment below. You probably know somebody that needs to see this. Do show it to them. We'll see you guys soon. Tomorrow, I'm hosting Rule Zero on my channel, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Here, I got to create the event and pop it out. But topic is LTR game. We'll see you guys later. Peace.